My wife left our infant son after her sister convinced her motherhood destroys women's potential and bodies. 11 years later she came back demanding custody but discovered I'd remarried and our son refused to meet her after his stepmom raised him through every milestone. I am a 41-year-old man and I need to share what happened with my first wife Vanessa and our son Connor. This story spans over a decade and has shaped who our family has become. When Vanessa and I got married, I was 27 and she was 26. We had dated for 3 years and seemed to want the same things from life. We both worked in finance, enjoyed traveling, and talked about having kids eventually. Vanessa's younger sister Lauren was always a strong influence on her. Lauren was 24 and very focused on her career and appearance. She worked as a social media manager and was constantly posting about self-optimization and personal growth. She followed influencers who talked about how traditional life paths were traps for women. Marriage was settling. Motherhood was giving up your dreams. She would share these ideas with Vanessa constantly. I noticed that after spending time with Lauren, Vanessa would come home questioning things about our life. She would ask if I thought she was losing her edge by being married. She would worry about gaining weight or looking older. I tried to reassure her but Lauren's influence was strong. Vanessa looked up to her younger sister even though Lauren had never been in a serious relationship or achieved the career success she claimed to be pursuing. We got pregnant 2 years into our marriage. It wasn't planned but we were both excited once the initial shock wore off. Vanessa had a relatively easy pregnancy physically but she seemed anxious emotionally. She worried constantly about her body changing. She researched personal trainers and talked about getting back in shape immediately after birth. I thought this was normal new mom anxiety and tried to be supportive. Lauren was negative about the pregnancy from the start. She sent Vanessa articles about how motherhood derailed women's careers and destroyed their bodies. She forwarded posts from women who regretted having children. She talked about studies showing mothers earned less and were perceived as less competent at work. Every conversation with Lauren left Vanessa more anxious and depressed. Connor was born healthy and beautiful. I fell in love with him immediately. Vanessa seemed overwhelmed. The first few weeks were hard like they are for all new parents. Connor cried a lot and neither of us got much sleep. I took 2 weeks off work and helped as much as I could. Vanessa struggled with breastfeeding and felt like a failure when we had to supplement with formula. I told her fed was best and that she was doing great but she couldn't hear me past Lauren's voice in her head. Lauren visited when Connor was 3 weeks old. She made comments about how tired Vanessa looked and how much baby weight she still had. She talked about a friend who had bounced back to her pre-pregnancy body in 6 weeks. She suggested Vanessa should think about going back to work early so she didn't lose momentum in her career. Every comment was wrapped in fake concern but was clearly designed to make Vanessa feel bad about her choices. When Connor was 2 months old, Vanessa went back to work. She had planned to take 3 months of maternity leave but Lauren convinced her that staying out too long would hurt her career. We hired a nanny to help during the day. Vanessa seemed relieved to be back at the office and away from the demands of caring for an infant. I understood that some women needed adult interaction and intellectual stimulation. I didn't judge her for wanting to work. But Vanessa became distant with Connor even when she was home. She would hold him if I asked her to but she didn't seek him out. She didn't light up when he smiled at her. She seemed to see him as an obligation rather than a joy. I tried to talk to her about it but she got defensive. She said she was just tired and adjusting to being a working mom. She said I was being too sensitive. Lauren started talking to Vanessa about modeling opportunities. Lauren had a friend who was a photographer and claimed he could get Vanessa started in commercial modeling. Vanessa was 5 feet 7 inches and conventionally attractive but she was 28 years old with a post-pregnancy body. The modeling industry isn't exactly welcoming to women in that situation. But Lauren convinced Vanessa that this was her chance to do something for herself before it was too late. Vanessa started going to photo shoots on weekends. She would leave Connor with me and spend entire days doing test shoots with Lauren's photographer friend. She started an extreme diet and exercise routine to lose the remaining baby weight. She talked constantly about her modeling prospects and how she might have to travel for shoots. She barely mentioned Connor unless I brought him up first. When Connor was 6 months old, Vanessa said she needed to talk. She sat me down and said she was unhappy. She said becoming a mother had made her lose herself. She said every day she felt her youth and potential slipping away while she changed diapers and dealt with spit up. She said Lauren had helped her realize she was sacrificing too much and needed to prioritize her own dreams. I asked what she wanted to do. She said she had been offered a chance to move to Los Angeles for 6 months to build her modeling portfolio. Lauren's photographer friend had connections there and thought Vanessa could get signed with an agency if she went all in on it. I asked about Connor. She said I could handle things with the nanny's help and that 6 months would go fast. She would visit and FaceTime regularly. I was shocked but I tried to be understanding. I asked if this was really about modeling or if she was struggling with postpartum depression. She got angry and said I was dismissing her dreams by calling it depression. She said not every woman was meant to be a stay-at-home mom and she needed more from life. I pointed out that she wasn't a stay-at-home mom, she worked full-time and we had help. She said it wasn't enough and she needed space. Over the next 2 months, Vanessa pulled further away from Connor and me. She stopped helping with nighttime feedings or morning routines. She stayed out late with Lauren discussing her plans. She seemed to resent every moment she had to spend on parenting duties. I suggested marriage counseling, but she said there was nothing to counsel because she had already made up her mind. When Connor was 8 months old, Vanessa moved out. She said she was going to Los Angeles to pursue modeling and needed to do it now before she got too old. She said she would be back in 6 months after establishing herself. She said we could figure out a co-parenting arrangement then. She packed 2 suitcases and left on a Tuesday morning without even saying goodbye to Connor. I was holding him when she walked out the door. He was teething and fussy. She looked back once and then kept walking. I was devastated and angry. My 8-month-old son had just been abandoned by his mother. I had to figure out how to be a single father while working full-time. The nanny increased her hours and became essential to our survival. My parents helped as much as they could. My sister came over several evenings a week to help with dinner and bedtime. We built a support system that didn't include Vanessa. Vanessa called a few times in the first month. The calls were brief and awkward. She would ask how Connor was doing but not really engage with the details. She never asked to FaceTime with him. She never asked to see photos. It was like she was checking a box to feel less guilty rather than actually connecting with her son. After the first month, the calls became less frequent. Update 1. The first year after Vanessa left was the hardest of my life. I was grieving the end of my marriage while trying to be fully present for Connor. He was learning to walk and starting to babble words. Every milestone made me angry that Vanessa was missing it by choice. I took photos and videos of everything because I wanted Connor to know he was loved and celebrated even though his mother wasn't there. Vanessa sent gifts occasionally. A stuffed animal for Connor's first birthday. A Christmas present of baby clothes that were the wrong size. The gifts felt like afterthoughts. There were never cards or personal notes. Just packages shipped from wherever she was at the time. I put the gifts away and sometimes Connor played with them without knowing who they were from. I filed for divorce 6 months after Vanessa left. She didn't contest it. We divided our assets through lawyers without ever speaking directly. I got full physical custody of Connor with Vanessa having rights to visitation if she chose to exercise them. She never did. The divorce was final before Connor's second birthday. Vanessa signed all the papers and sent them back without trying to see her son. My life became about work and Connor. I would get up early to spend time with him before the nanny arrived. I would rush home from work to take over evening care. Weekends were for parks and play dates and baby classes. I was exhausted but also happier than I had been during the last months of my marriage. Connor was a joy. He was funny and curious and affectionate. Raising him without the tension of Vanessa's resentment was actually easier. When Connor was 3 years old, I met Rachel at a birthday party for one of Connor's friends. She was the aunt of the birthday girl and was helping host the party. She was warm and funny and great with kids. We talked while supervising a group of toddlers playing in a sandbox. She asked about Connor's mom and I gave her the basic story. She didn't pry or judge. She just listened and said that Connor seemed like a happy kid. Rachel and I started dating slowly. She was 32 and had never been married. She was a teacher and loved working with children but hadn't found the right person to start a family with. She was cautious about dating someone with a young child. I was cautious about introducing anyone into Connor's life who might leave. We took our time getting to know each other before she met Connor in a serious way. Connor was 4 when Rachel started spending regular time with us. She would come over for dinner or join us for weekend activities. Connor liked her immediately. She read books with him and played blocks and never talked down to him. She didn't try to be his mother but she was a steady, caring presence. Over time, she became essential to both of us. Vanessa sent a card for Connor's 4th birthday. It had a generic message and a gift card to a toy store. No phone call. No FaceTime. No request to visit. The cards and gifts came randomly over the years but there was never real contact. I saved everything in a box in case Connor wanted to see it someday. I wanted him to know I hadn't kept his mother away. She had chosen not to be present. Rachel and I got married when Connor was 6 years old. It was a small ceremony with close family and friends. Connor was our ring bearer and took his job very seriously. Rachel had been essentially co-parenting him for 2 years by that point. She did school drop-offs and pickups. She attended parent-teacher conferences with me. She took him to doctor appointments. She was there for nightmares and stomach bugs and skinned knees. She was his mother in every way that mattered. We didn't hide Vanessa's existence from Connor. As he got old enough to ask questions, we told him age-appropriate truths. He knew he had a birth mother who lived far away. He knew she sent him gifts sometimes. He knew Rachel was his stepmom but that she loved him completely. He called Rachel mom because that's what felt natural to him. We never pressured him but we also never corrected him. Connor thrived with Rachel in his life. He was doing well in school and had good friends. He played soccer and took swimming lessons. He was confident and happy. Rachel attended every game and recital and school event. She made elaborate birthday cakes and organized play dates and helped with homework. She was fully committed to being his mother. Vanessa's modeling career never took off the way Lauren had promised. I heard through mutual friends that she did some commercial work and local ads but never got signed with a major agency. She was too old when she started and the industry was brutal. She worked retail jobs between modeling gigs to make ends meet. She lived with Lauren in a small apartment and seemed to be struggling financially. By the time Connor was 8, Rachel had adopted him. Vanessa had willingly terminated her parental rights when we presented the adoption paperwork. She signed everything without requesting to see Connor or asking questions about his life. The lawyer asked if she was sure and she said she thought it was for the best. Rachel legally became Connor's mother and we changed his birth certificate to reflect that. Connor knew about the adoption. We explained that Rachel was his mom in his heart and now she was his mom legally too. He was happy about it. He made Rachel a card that said best mom ever and gave it to her the day the adoption was finalized. She cried happy tears and hung it on our refrigerator. It's still there today.